So, hey, did I miss anything? Come on, let me know. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is, once again, Daily Shot of Steelers comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Thanks to everybody for both the kind wishes in advance of the vacation and for the gentle urging to not do any work on that vacation. I really didn't. I swear. Just a teensy, maybe little bit, but not too much. And while I was gone, your favorite football team conducted a full-on mini camp and, oh, by the way, took off the table, at least as far as I'm concerned, maybe the principal conversation point that exists regarding this franchise. That, of course, being the fate of Mike Tomlin as head coach. Oh, it's not a big deal right now. It's never a big deal in June. It's only a big deal when the team loses a football game. And all of us, and I'm no exception to this, will look at the head coach and say, what was his role in this? And if it's fair, or sometimes even if it isn't, how does this connect to the team not having won a playoff game in a billion years? I felt throughout the 2023 season as if Tomlin's status was a fair game debate to be having. There were all kinds of things to question about his decision-making, not least of which was employing Matt Canada as long as he did, which is still the ugliest single thing that happened last season. And there remains nowhere for me to point the finger on that specific issue other than at the head coach. So if he was going to appear willing to go down with the world's worst offensive coordinator, I wasn't about to throw him a life raft. I thought there were points in the season where it looked like Tomlin might be done. Either done from the standpoint of Art Rooney saying, you know what, that's it, time for a change, or done as in he'd just want to be done. He'd had enough. Couldn't have been sure. And then this 3-year extension happens. This, of course, being while I was over in Serbia visiting extended family. And this, of course, predictably raising all kinds of fuss and dust from the fan base in one direction or the other. That's the way Tomlin discussions go. But here's what I have to say on it. It's over. It is over. And I'm going to share with you why, and I strongly suspect that there's a really high percentage of the people who talk regularly about Tomlin and his status who aren't even aware of this. Do you know, how much money this dude's making? Do you? Well, I don't exactly. The contract figures haven't been released. They almost always aren't when it comes to coaches, which I think is a mistake, by the way. But I do know that his previous contract had his average salary in the range of $13 million. I'm going to repeat that. This is a coach being paid in the range of $13 million a year on his last contract. And you can say whatever you want about his more recent performances and whether or not he's taken a step back. I can assure you he did not take a pay cut to sign this most recent contract. So what you're talking about, in all likelihood, and I mean all likelihood, is that he's getting somewhere in the neighborhood of $17 or $18 million a year. He's being paid at the level of a superstar athlete. Did you know this? Or did you even think about it? Did you just wonder, well, he's a coach, they can fire him whenever they want. They can eat the money. They won't. They won't. Look, not to keep bringing up Canada, but there had to have been some other reason that the Steelers hung on to him as long as they did, meaning beyond his stellar performance. And neither Canada nor any coordinator for any of the 32 NFL franchises would be making even a fraction of the dollars that we're talking about here with Tomlin. It's a ton of money. It's 100% guaranteed, unlike athlete contracts. It's outside the salary cap, obviously. The Steelers are just plain old on the hook for it. And if you look at how the Steelers do business in general, and I don't want to get mean here or whatever, but they're often accused of cutting corners with this or that. You remember the little stir about the family lounge at Acrisure Stadium and the weight room over on the south side. If you think that there's any circumstance in which Tomlin can get fired over these next 3 years and the Steelers would eat that money plus go sign another head coach, it's going to cost something, though not that amount. I mean, no, that's not going to happen. So the 2024 season, and really, if you think about it, the 2025 season, in my mind, are going to be bereft of Tomlin debates. What would be the point? What would be the purpose of my opening up the Daily Shot the day after the opening game in Atlanta? They lose to the Falcons, big embarrassment. Here we go again, blah, 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 blah. And I start cutting up the head coach and say he's the problem. What would be the objective? To advocate for a firing that you now know is not going to happen? What are you going to say? What are you going to say when you're mad at him? Trade him? Send him somewhere else for draft picks or whatever? It's just not going to be a thing. And I don't know, mostly because I haven't been on this side of the world for a little while, that's been properly absorbed. This is over. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Doug. And it's in response to the last episode that I had before leaving. That was 8 days ago. It was about Russell Wilson maybe not necessarily being a fit for the way this offensive line itself claimed to have enjoyed playing the game late last season in front of Mason Rudolph. Doug says, DK, I couldn't agree more. The main reason I was reluctant about the Steelers taking Wilson on, crazy cheap salary or not, is that although he's been a solid player and no doubt still has gas in the proverbial tank, his offensive line in Seattle centered on him in much the same way the Ravens went all in with Lamar Jackson. To say that Russ's style is unique is an understatement. Now, there are far greater minds than mine running this team, but it doesn't take a paid X's and O's guy to recognize that the chemistry between the Steelers' offensive line and Mason Rudolph worked last year. That's why seeing Rudolph walk this past offseason was one of the biggest disappointments for me. So now we've got Russ for at least a season. Is that long enough for this very young offensive line to figure him out and accommodate his style of play? I don't know. Doug. Here's what I do know. Right now, there's me and there's you talking about this, and I don't get the sense that a whole lot of people are. I do get the sense from watching this team in these summer workouts that it's not just going to be an issue in Latrobe. It's not just going to be an issue in the exhibitions. It's going to be the issue. It's going to be the thing we're talking about. And we're not even going to have a good feel for it then because nobody's going to be scheming. As we all learned the hard way in the 2023 preseason, stuff doesn't mean anything because nobody's scripting how to get you. Nobody's scripting to confuse anybody. Nobody's attacking, as you just correctly identified them, a young offensive line going at what they don't know, what they can't know, no matter how well they prepare or they get prepared. And that's outside talking about their talent. We can all do that. We can all look at Broderick Jones going into his second year, obviously impressive as a rookie. We can look at Zach Frazier. We can look at Troy Fautanu, and we can say, hey, listen, all three of these kids can play football. All three of them. And then at the two guard positions, they're obviously set with veterans. And look, if Dan Moore starts the season at left tackle, you have a little bit of additional continuity. But they have no idea what to do in front of this quarterback, and they're not going to know until they get to Atlanta. And how that hasn't become a bigger thing, at least to whatever extent I'm capable of gauging, I don't know. I really, really, really think, and you can write this down, that it's going to become the thing that we're all talking about come August. I appreciate the question, and one more time, I appreciate everybody sending all the stuff that they did while I was gone and saying, life without daily shots and whatever. Believe me, it was weird for me too. It really was. My day isn't complete until I do these things. So on that note, yes, there will be another one tomorrow and, forever and ever.